Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1150B, and today's date is December 12th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Elite Are Attempting a Soft Coup to Invalidate the Elections. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Well, it looks like the establishment, the elite, the Clintons, the central bankers, they're making their move. Now, we knew when we discussed the elections going back many months that Trump most likely will not make it to the White House. And we can see that they will do anything and everything to stop him from getting into the White House. And even if he gets to the White House, something still might happen. And we talked about Jill Stein, phase one, where they were trying to have recounts in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to remove those electoral votes from the Electoral College when that took place on December 19th. And this way they could say there was no winner. That plan didn't work out. So now they're using phase two. And here we are. We discussed a little bit about this yesterday, Sunday, on the Economic Collapse News Brief. And what we're seeing is they are taking it to the next level. Now, the question is, the corporate media, they're out there and they're trying to convince everyone that Russia was behind the WikiLeaks emails with Clinton. Now, why are they doing this right now? Because all this has to be interrelated. Because they're trying to get Clinton in office. That's their main objective right now. I know people don't want to believe this, but yes, they're going to do whatever they possibly can to get their candidate into office. Now, remember, the corporate media is completely behind this. The elite, they're completely behind this. And they need to make sure that they let everyone know and everyone to realize that these emails, well, that had to do something with Russia. Russia was behind all of this. Now, if Russia really wanted to interfere in the U.S. elections and tilt the playing field against Clinton, well, do you really think they would just trickle in the emails like Assange did? Or do you think they would have taken all the emails, put them in the proper chronological order, highlighted everything that they wanted us to see, taken it, and maybe go to The Intercept, maybe Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept, Matt Taibbi at Rolling Stone, and hand it over? But we can see right now that this didn't happen. Instead, what actually happened was Michael Froman emails were released in dribbles from October 7th through November 8th, mixed in with giant piles of unrelated Podesta emails, so that the full impact of what Froman had done wasn't really discernible. And the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, has already stated that Russia did not provide the Podesta emails. And we can see over the weekend, the Guardian newspaper reported even stronger revelations from Craig Murray, a close associate of Assange. Murray said the CIA was absolutely making it up. Murray said, "I've met the person who leaked them, and they are certainly not Russian, and it's not an insider. It's a leak, not a hack. These two things are completely different." So we can see right now they need everyone to believe that these are linked, because what they're trying to do is get their candidate into office. Now, I don't care for Trump. I don't care for Clinton. I want someone who's going to work for the people, who is not controlled by corporate media, who is not controlled by corporations, who's not controlled by the central bank, who's not controlled by foreign entities. Right now, Trump is not in office, so I can't say, yes, he is for the people or not for the people. He says a lot of things. They sound great, but again, we've heard this before from politicians. So I'm not a buyer yet. Maybe other people are. But until we see the actions of that person while they're in office, you really don't know anything yet. So right now we have the CIA that is using propaganda. And then we have the FBI, who isn't buying the fuzzy, ambiguous assertions from the CIA that Russia meddled in the U.S. elections on behalf of the Trump campaign. Now, of course, the CIA, what proof do they have? None. Now, we can see right now that John Bolton, he was out there and he was saying that this is a false flag by the Obama administration. This is a complete setup. And I think he retracted the part where it was done by the Obama administration. But he does say it is a false flag. And the White House came out and said, we reject these false flag conspiracy. And Josh Earnest came out and said government intelligence officials are patriots, really, that lie to the American people, that have regime change in other countries, that mess with other elections in other countries where they remove the elected leader and they bring in a puppet government which the people really didn't elect. I mean, look at Libya. Let's just use that as an example. The unity government is not an elected government. Why don't they allow the people to elect their own leader? Let them work out their problems. That's democracy. And Josh Earnest was out there saying Trump called on Russia to hack Clinton. Well, he's saying a lot of things, but he has no proof to back any of this up. He did say that Congress has special responsibility to probe claims of Russia using hackers to influence election in Donald Trump's favor. So what is really going on here? What's going on is that they're trying to push for a new election. And the CIA is out there, and there's a former CIA operative, Robert Baer, brought up the idea of holding new elections. Yes, they're laying the groundwork. They're floating it. These are invalid. We need new elections. And we can see right now that this is what they're trying to do. And this individual, former CIA operative Robert Baer, he is saying that it looks like, to me, that Russia did interfere. Again, citing no proof. And he went on to say that we'll never be able to decide whether they changed the outcome, but I'll tell you, having worked in the CIA, if we had been caught, listen to what he's saying, if we had been caught interfering in European elections or Asian elections, so if he had been caught, does that mean they actually did interfere and they just weren't caught? We know the CIA meddles in other countries. I mean, it's completely obvious. Regime change in Yemen, regime change in Libya, regime change in Lebanon, regime change in Iraq. They want a regime change in Syria, regime change in Ukraine. They meddle in elections. John Kerry went up to Afghanistan to get the outcome they wanted, to get the bilateral security agreement signed so the troops can go back into Afghanistan. So they are meddling in other countries. And they're all doing this right now. They're floating all of this out there to make people question the elections. This is a soft coup. So the CIA, the establishment, the elite, they're making an attempt for a soft coup. And we see the Clinton campaign, by way of its political advisor, John Podesta, said the campaign is supporting an effort by members of the Electoral College to request an intelligence briefing on foreign intervention in the presidential election. In his statement released on Monday, he said, the bipartisan electors letter raises very grave issues involving our national security, and added that the electors have a solemn responsibility under the Constitution, and we support their efforts to have their questions addressed. Now, we can see the elite, the Clinton campaign, they're pushing this. But what's very interesting about all of this is that Josh Earnest, during the briefing today, explicitly stated U.S. intel agencies didn't detect any malicious cyber activity that interfered with casting and counting of ballots on November 8th. But that doesn't matter. Because think about this for a second. Hillary had the popular vote. The Electoral College is separate and apart. They don't care about the numbers. They don't care about who won the popular vote, who didn't win the popular vote. What they want is to make everyone think and believe that there's a problem with the election system. That we don't know that if this outcome is the right outcome. They don't care about the counts. They just want people to question it. They want the Electoral College to question it on December 19th or before that time period, because we have only 7 days until we reach that pivotal point. And right now, 10 Electoral College electors have asked U.S. intelligence officials for more information on the ongoing investigation. This is what they wanted. They want them to look into it. They want them to question it, even if there's no proof. Because they're going to try to make this push to say, well, if you're questioning it, maybe we need to do this over. And this is what they're trying to do. So the group of electors, which includes the daughter of House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, wrote an open letter to Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, asking for the information ahead of their December 19th meeting. So right now, there's no proof, but they're trying to get electors on board with this, to postpone their voting on December 19th, to eventually say this election is invalid. Now the question we have to ask, if Russia actually did this, why did they leave fingerprints that led CIA to its conclusion? Because we know state actors, they don't leave fingerprints. Well, they wouldn't. And this is why the CIA is up to its old tricks. Instead of overthrowing a democratically elected government in other countries, they're doing it here in the United States. And guess what? They now have the legal right to do so, since the law against covert CIA propaganda in the United States was repealed. It's important to note that this leak was published just as President Obama announced the ordering of a full-scale review of the intelligence. The Washington Post story was an effort to get out ahead of that and put the CIA's conclusions on the record before the review could be made public. Intelligence agencies do not have specific intelligence showing officials in the Kremlin. All they have is maybe some individuals that have links to Russia. We're not sure, but they can't name very specific actors that are responsible for this. They're actually saying the actors, according to the official, were one step removed from the Russian government. What does this mean? One step removed from the Russian intelligence apparatus? Well, it means anything the CIA wants it to mean. They're making it all up. They want you to believe that this is how it happened. And if they can't get the electors on board with this, and they don't postpone the elections and make it invalid, where they say it's a complete do-over, and they're even citing a case from 1995 where there was a Senate race and they found out there was fraud in the election. they're trying to take that case, the Supreme Court ruling in that, because they did a redo in that election, and they're trying to use it here right now. But the only difference is they had proof in 1995. Here, there is no proof. But they're trying to say there is a precedent for redoing the elections. Now, they're up to phase 2 right now. Jill Stein was phase 1. That didn't work out. Here we are, phase 2. They have 7 days to try to postpone the count of the Electoral College votes, and they're trying to make the elections invalid. Now, if they succeed, Trump right now will not be president-elect. Remember, he's not president-elect as of yet until the Electoral College votes. If the electors vote and they say he is the president-elect, well, phase 3 then comes in, because these votes then go to Congress. And who knows what they have planned for that. They also have protests, which will then spawn into riots. So we can see right now they are not finished. And even if Trump gets into the White House, most likely he might meet up with some type of accident. Because we know right now the elite, the central bankers, the establishment, they don't want him in office. I think Pence they'll be able to control. So this is not done just yet. We see out in Syria, it looks like Aleppo is liberated. The moderate rebels, the terrorists, they are running, they're fleeing the area. But we can see right now that the United States government, the central bankers, they had other plans in that area. And it looks like the United States government, they're trying to move the terrorist groups into central Syria. And it looks like the United States, they suspended active operations in Raqqa, which allowed the Islamic State to redeploy to Palmyra. And we see that the United States government, the central bankers, the Turkish government, they've been working together in Iraq. And we know that there are 1,500 troops that are headed towards Iraq. We understand that the United States government central bankers have been saying that the Iraqi forces, well, they're losing their drive. They can't do what they need to do in Mosul. Again, this is part of their plan to throw everything off to get the Islamic State out of Iraq. And we reported many reports ago that what they were going to do is take the Islamic State, move them out of Iraq into Syria, into Raqqa to be used in other areas. And what we're seeing right now on December 11th, 4,000 to 9,000 Islamic State fighters, well, they regrouped, they moved into Palmyra, and it looks like they now have taken Palmyra once again. And what we're seeing through all of this is that the United States government central bankers, they are not going to just say, okay, we give. They always try to meet their goal. Remember what is happening right now. The U.S. is sending another 200 ground troops into Syria. 2 days later, Obama unexpectedly lifted a ban restricting the delivery of military aid to foreign forces, irregular forces, groups or individuals. And all of these groups, all of these terrorist groups are receiving more and more aid, and eventually they're going to receive additional advanced weaponry. And we see that Russia right now is vowing to prevent the return of the Islamic State to Palmyra. They're getting their forces ready to go into this area. And right now, Syria controls Aleppo. They control the routes in and out. But we see what the United States government central bankers are trying to do. They are trying to provoke Russia. They want a war. Look what is happening with the election system. Because if they get the country, if they get the people believing that Russia cyber attacked the election system, that means we are at war. That means the United States is going to have to respond, right? Isn't that what President Obama said at the time? And if they are successful in invalidating these elections, that means Trump at this point is not president. Right now, that means Obama would stay on for a little while longer until they can work everything out. until we can have a redo whenever that's scheduled for. Very interesting. And we see right now the elite, the establishment, they are on target to start a war with Russia to cover up this entire collapse of the system. I don't think it's enough just to blame it on Trump. They want the war, reduce the population, cover up everything they have done, keep control of the system after the war. This is what they want. This is what they always want. This was their goal. Why do you think they set up the missile shield? Why do you think NATO has moved all the military assets throughout Eastern Europe? Why do you think they've been provoking Russia all this time? They're still going after their goal. They haven't stopped. And we're going to have to watch the situation very closely. People are going to have to start speaking out because we can see what their plans are. They want control. They will never give up authority. And if you think they are giving up authority, well, think again, because they're moving to their next plan. And if they have to get rid of any individual that gets in their way, they will. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.